The Phantom years were different than what the A4 and what the F-18 is doing now. We had a lot of shows. I think we were scheduled that year for 120 air shows. First thing I remember, actually it's one of the very first things I do remember, is my dad took me to an air show at Sanford, Florida. I wasn't too impressed until these blue airplanes took off. And it was 1947 or 48. I'm pretty sure it was 48, but I do remember the air show. I remember parts of it. I remember the Diamond coming in and doing some maneuvers, and everything was right in front of us. It really, really impressed me. And I know my dad would take me to air shows. I think deep down he wanted me to be a pilot, I guess, because he took me to every air show within 200 miles we'd wind up going to. Call signs are not chosen, they're awarded. When I was in the Reserve Air Group, we had my class, we'd go out on dog fights, tactics training we call it. Usually the first one back in those days was the winner, because you could come back and tell everybody what happened and the other people had to counter it. Well, I came back and I didn't tell them, I wanted to be, my name is Tucker, so I wanted my call sign maybe to be Fryer. Friar Tux seemed to fit. So I'd come back and I drew a frying pan with what I thought was a turkey in it with wings shooting down an airplane. And Rick Phillips, we wound up in the same squadron, 211 together, but he walked in and looked at it and said, "That's not a fryer, that frying chicken, that's a turkey," and it stuck. The Blues are unique in the military in that they choose their replacements. They are not assigned there. So if you want to be on the team, you have to ask, can I apply for the team? There's some paperwork you fill out. They had certain requirements and flight time and what type of aircraft you flew. And I applied. I knew somebody on the team, Steve Lambert, and he said, "Hey, can you come down to Pensacola? We're having a party Friday. Can you come?" And at that party, the boss, Don Bentley, asked if he could talk to me. So he took me upstairs to a room. He said, "Okay, we were thinking about you for the team, but when we were checking your background, we found out that you were a little wilder on liberty than we really could take a chance on." And I'm getting madder and madder by the moment. Who in the heck would say that? Because that is not true. Really? Sorta not. Damn, I was getting mad. And he says, "So instead we decided to pick 2 helo pilots." And I'm dead calm. And then the guys came out of the bathroom back there, and they have a song they sing, and singing a song, and then I realized I'd gotten selected. Don Bentley, the leader, had hurt his back or his neck. I think it was his back, and it was going to take too long to recuperate. So they asked Skip Umstead, and we extended winter training to get him up to speed as leader. He was a former solo pilot under Harley, so he had a lot of the same traits. He was more soft-spoken. Harley was kind of bigger than life. Skip was bigger than life when you knew him. He was a phenomenal leader, really good officer. He really was going to go a long, long way, just like Harley would have. I do remember the very first air show was at Sanford, Florida. The site where I saw the Blues the first time that I remember it, on the same site. It was kind of deja vu when I go there now as a 27-year-old, 28-year-old lieutenant, flying these airplanes that I really wanted to fly when I was there as a 2-year-old. The Paris Air Show that year was a little noteworthy in that the Concorde flew there, and the Tu-144, which was the Russian SST that they were showing off the same year. And there was a bit of a rivalry between the two pilots. We had a cocktail party before the last day, and the Russian guys were there, and we were talking to him, and he says, "You watch me tomorrow, comrade. I'll show you something." Well, the next day we were all ready to go, and the Tu-144 took off, and he was pushing the airplane. He had, I think, 7 people on board, I think, with him. And he really got the nose really high, good roll rate. One of the maneuvers he came in, started a real high climb, And he got up there, and all of a sudden the airplane stalled. And you could see it stalled and shuddered, and it fell off, and it just went floop right into a village, right off the end of the runway out there. I think it killed 12 or 15 people in the village, 15 I think. And we were next. We followed him. So we're standing there watching this, and next, and away we go. We had to walk down and not go back up. That morning, Skip had breakfast with Admiral Turner, Fox Turner, who was the Op 05, which is the head naval aviator. And he said, "Skip, I'm tired of looking up at you." Skip told the Admiral, the French have rules that we said we would abide by, and there's all the ceilings on the maneuver are quite high. I mean, it's 500 feet is the lowest we were allowed to go. The Admiral said, "Skip, I understand that, but who do you work for? Do you work for the frog, or do you work for me?" And that was a quote. And Skip says, "Yes, sir, I understand." So Skip briefed us, says, "Okay, we're setting normal altitudes today. It's the last day of the show. All they can do is kick us out. All they can do is send us home." Well, the head of the show was more worried about the fire and the accident before, so he had his attention on that, and so he didn't say too much. Every once in a while he would turn and he'd see that we were lower than normal, and he'd tell John Shahansky, who was the narrator, who was in the tower, said, "Tell them to get it up. Get the altitudes up." Well, they got down to the slow-fast maneuver. Skip brought them in, and he set them at, I don't know, 100 feet or so, and I was supposed to look like I was underneath them, and I was a little late, but I hit him perfect. And the guy looked, and he saw the diamond, but he didn't see me coming. And he looked, saw the diamond, and said, "They're low, but they're slow. That's okay." But then he looked away, and then he came back, and I hit him perfectly at center point, and I was below him. And I mean, and I just kind of held it on the deck. Right off the end of the runway was the McDonnell Douglas Chalet, and John Shahansky came on the radio and said, "Turk?" Yeah, John. That's Smoke. They want you to leave the air show." "What? Are you sure?" I said, "No, they want you to land right now." I said, "Well, I can't because my drag chute fell on takeoff, so I'm too heavy." So I said, "Well, you're out, so get behind the crowd or just, go away for a while." So okay, we came in and landed, and we got out of the airplane, got together. Skip said, "Hey, Turk, why don't you just go back to the hotel? Debrief?" "No, why don't you just go back to the hotel?" So I did, and it was a good thing because the gendarmes were waiting in the debriefing room for me. We transitioned in the fall of '73 to the A4 Skyhawk from the Phantom, when we ran out of Phantoms, basically. The airplane was a phenomenal airplane, and it really is probably the best air show airplane they've had. Now, that's going to rub some Phantom guys the wrong way, but this airplane with the big engine in it, P420 I think it was, it had a 720 degree per second roll rate, whereas the Phantom was 420 degrees per second, so it rolled a lot faster. Better than 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio in the airplane without the afterburner. When you're light, you had to be down about 1,000 pounds, but the engine, that P420 engine was a phenomenal engine. And it was going to be a much simpler airplane to fly. Maintenance got cut in half, went from 150 people to 80 people on the whole enlisted cadre, I believe was the number. On the team, I met so many people I never would have met that opened so many doors. 99% of what has happened to me in my life comes because of contact of the Blue Angels. Having that in my resume, having done that successfully and lived through it, and done it the best I could, gave me so much. I never would have made the friends I make. I mean, the guys with the team, I mean, I got 100 brothers. I didn't have any brothers, I have a sister. And we fought like cats and dogs. But now I got all these brothers that we know, we have a bond, a kinship through something we did that we understand. And we don't have to talk about it because we understand what it's like. And that is really